Get out of your head. You're trapped in there. You're stuck in there. You need a break. You need to reset, right? So this is what we're gonna do. I don't even know what we're gonna do, but we're here now. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a breath and we're gonna be present, right? So breathe in through your nose. Hold. Release through your mouth. Repeat that as I speak, 1 or 2 times. Hone in on this moment. We're here, in the present. This is the life that we have. I don't know where you are. I'm in my living room. I see the distant skyline in the distance. The clouds. I got a lamp on. TV's turned off. I'm sitting here. I was just on Pinterest looking up boy apartment videos because it looked cool. One of the things I want to do is I like interior design. There's a lot of work that I would need to do in order to have a portfolio for interior design for the level that I'm at in it, because I'm very much amateur, and it would take a lot of work to get to those things. I think a very important thing that we need to do is we need to sit with ourselves and we need to explore what we want to do. So I want to do that with you right now. I want to lead you in that. I'm not going to be doing it. I'm going to lead you. So take out a piece of paper and a pencil, or your phone if you're not watching it on your phone, or you can swipe up and go to your notes app. So hopefully I'm still on your phone screen, you can still hear me, and we're ready to write what our goals are. So the first thing I want you to do is write something, the most recent thing you thought about doing, no matter what it is. If it's moving to a different place, if it's trying a new restaurant, or if it's exploring a hobby, write whatever it is, right? So you have this thing. I'll give you a few seconds to conjure up what that is, because I know for me personally, I forget it all the time. So you can even refer to notes that you have in the past. Whatever the first thing is, write it down, right? So now you have it in front of you. I'm going to choose one for myself. Simple life. I wrote, I want a simple life. So now ask yourself, do you really want this? And you can write your thoughts. Do I really want a simple life? Alright? It's hard for me to do 2 things at once, so I'm just going to give some room to breathe. I'm asking myself, do I want a simple life? You ask yourself, do you want that thing that's in front of you? And I'm going to write some thoughts now. Okay, so the first few thoughts that I had, because you have to let your ego go, sort of. You have to kind of be objective about this. If you really want to live a life that has value, you have to be harsh. You have to be, not necessarily harsh, but true. And sometimes the truth hurts. First thing I wrote was focus. A simple life creates focus. And I want focus. I don't want a life where I'm bouncing from idea to idea without an overarching goal. Second thing I wrote was sustain. There's this thought that I have where if my best friend says it, the only thing that matters at the end of your life is what you were able to sustain during this life. That's really the fruit. Like, that's the thing that you've been working towards. And if it's like a business that you've worked at for a long time. You get like a retirement package, and there are like benefits to doing things consistently on a grander scale than we can hopefully imagine for all those years that we spent doing. And then the last thing I wrote, probably off of these first two, is the thought of eternal. Is a simple life eternal? A simple life in eternity is a life that was valuably lived. But the Bible says to seek a quiet life, a peaceful and quiet life. So my goal of having a simple life is a very vague statement. What does this mean? So now we have like our thoughts, our initial thoughts of what it is. Now let's go to the second round. The second thing we're going to ask ourselves is, what does this really mean? Like, what do you mean by what you're talking about? And one example I gave was if you have a restaurant that you want to go to. So let's imagine you chose something a little bit more silly like that. Even though food is necessary, food is a fun thing to entertain. But so if you have a restaurant, right, is it necessary for you to go to the restaurant? Maybe you said no because it's not healthy, right? So if you figure out the first thing you wrote down, if it wasn't necessary, find a different one and go until the first round, which we just went through, is something that you find purpose in. So once you find purpose in it, now we're on to the next. And you can go back a few minutes, do that again. Once you find a different one, come back here. So the second thing we're going to ask ourselves is, how do I get that? So let's take a few moments, figure out, how do I get it? What does it take? What does it require of me? Okay, so for me, I wrote, a simple life requires habits. I looked up the definition of simple. It means easily understood or done, presenting no difficulty. Plain, basic, uncomplicated. So for me, my mind went to habits. I think habits are something that they're not easy to start, but they're easy once they go. You fall into it automatically. That's how we're wired. So a simple life requires me to build habits so that I can consistently do those things. And now this is complex. Like, a simple life can mean so many things. That's why we're digging into this. My example is very general, but it's good to think about. So I wrote, it requires a dedication to ordinary things and done consistently. So then I asked myself, can I do this for myself? Do I have the ability? I wrote yes. I do have the ability to create these things. So this is just a general guideline for pursuing these kinds of things. And the main part of this video, the reason I started recording, like I said in my last video, I don't have a lot of vision for what this is, but I'm starting it before it comes fully to me. That being said, this video I began because I want to help you get out of your head. So now we wrote things down. I didn't know I was going to even do this exercise. I'm just following the flow of how my mind is working. And this is kind of similar to meditation, where you try to follow the thoughts deeper and deeper so that you can get to the very base level of what you're even thinking. Like sometimes we are very dull. Sometimes we are very ignorant to ourselves, to our surroundings. And what I mean by that is, someone can ask a question. Jordan Peterson, I was listening to a video yesterday. He said, is fiction true? I think something like that. And then he said, well, it depends on what you mean by true. And I think a lot of people, especially even myself, we come to a point where we have something in front of us and we don't even see that one thing correctly. We don't even see it correctly. Because you can look at my hand and you can observe many facets of it. You can observe the shadow on the bottom, the light on the top. You can observe the texture of my skin. You can observe the divisions. But what needs to be observed? Maybe the ability for me to move it, the ability for it to be connected to my arm. It's not just a hand that is severed, and so that gives it purpose. There are so many ways you can look at something. There are so many ways you can see something, but you have to see it correctly. And there are many correct ways of seeing. What's the correct way of seeing it for yourself? And for our minds to go into the depth, we need stillness. So it's kind of cool that my example was simple life, because I think that might be subconsciously what I'm trying to pursue in this video with you. I want you to be simple right now. I want you to be calm, to not overthink where you're at right now. You may be listening to this in a library. What a beautiful setting. Do you like that library? Do you want to come back to that library? Make that a routine. Make whatever you find enjoyable, make that consistent. So I talked about interior design earlier in the video. It overwhelms me to think of me doing interior design because I'm not in spaces where interior design takes place. I had a conversation with this woman who does set design for commercials from Target and things like that. And she said a lot of the filming for films are being done in Atlanta, Los Angeles, New York, but mainly overseas. The conversation ended with me basically saying I should go where it's happening, right? And she agreed. Go where it's happening. And so once we figure out what we want to do, you must decide, is the environment you live in valuable for you to stay? Is it good for you to stay here? When thinking about the things that you want, once you determine that it is necessary, first good, then necessary for you personally. It's 2 or 3 levels. Once you get to the 4th level, the 4th level is, how do I not overcomplicate what I want? How do I not overcomplicate this thing, right? Take coffee, for example. Don't overcomplicate it. Seasonally, coffee shops change their coffee. They change their flavors. Sometimes you do too much. Sometimes you put 3 flavors when there should only be 2. Sometimes you put 2 when there should only be 1. Sometimes all you need is a drip coffee with no cream and no sugar. If you do too much, you ruin the flavor profile that is necessary. You ruin all this work, all the planting, the reaping, the washing, the grinding of the beans. And you ruin it because you wanted to put a little too much syrup in your coffee. So, my question now is to keep it simple, to keep our mind at ease as we think about these goals that we have. How do you, so when it comes to the work you put in, sometimes working more is not more necessary. Sometimes it's not going to be more beneficial. Humility, like sacrificing some stuff, like being like, okay, maybe this is not necessary right now. Maybe it's not in my hands, so I'm just going to let it go, and I'm going to give it up to God. I'm going to do what I know I should be doing. This video for me right now is more important. And then trust that it'll come when it needs to come. I think, for example, music, a lot of people talk about when you're trying so hard to find the words, they don't come. And then you walk out of the studio, drive home, pick up some Wendy's, little 4 for 4, take a bite of that burger, roll down the window, and then the wind hits you and you get the lyrics. And then you record it on a voice memo, bring it into the studio. You think you're going to record it on the mic professionally? Nope. The voice memo was great. We're putting the voice memo in. Raw, grainy, low quality. Because that was the magic. Don't force it. Stay simple. We're here. We're present. We're here. This is what we have. This is our life. So let's be here. Let's experience it. And let's figure out how to move forward tactically in the healthiest way. Let's not get overwhelmed. Let's just calm it down. Slow it down. Be cool like Matthew McConaughey. So let's take another breath before we leave. Thank you for listening, sitting with me, and I hope that you gained something from this. If not anything, you were present. So let's breathe in. Hold. Breathe out.